Sometimes it's not enough to be a pioneer. Don't get me wrong, I love pioneers. I love the pioneering spirit. I firmly believe that each and every person in this room has the capacity to become a pioneer. Pioneers are largely driven, brave individuals pursuing a single purpose. When I was much younger, I wanted to be a mountain guide. And in order to be a mountain guide, I had to take a 3-month course in the Rockies. Part of the course was caving. Now, at 6'3", I'm not really designed to crawl around in subterranean tunnels with ease. Nonetheless, on the caving component, as I was preparing to rappel into the cave, my first cave ever, I would just put some weight on the rope, and the rope snapped like a pencil. I started to fall. I got crashed and bumped and driven into rock walls and finally landed 70 feet below me on the cave floor without a heartbeat. It took my instructor 2 attempts to revive me. 3 years later, I was on an Everest expedition. We were climbing a long and difficult route up the world's highest mountain. My goal was to become the youngest person to summit Mount Everest. Late one night, it was about 10 o'clock, my partner and I were in a small tent on an even smaller snow ledge, perched way high on the north face of Everest. I crawled out of my tent onto this little ledge, started to put on my boots. I slipped, and when I slipped, I kicked one of my boots thousands of feet into Tibet. I believe today I am still the only man who's ever done that. But the loss of that boot saved my life. Let me explain. It took me 4 days to get back to base camp. After I reached base camp, the 6 climbing partners of mine who were still up on that mountain were hit by a huge avalanche. And only one of them survived. Had I not lost my boot, I would have been with them that day, and most likely been killed. I continued to climb in the Himalayas for 8 years after that particular expedition. I saw myself as a pioneer. I saw myself as being driven by a singular purpose. And in all honesty, it's only God's will that I'm here today. There were many other adventures that I had to live through. Sometimes life throws you a curveball where you're going along life merrily, and all of a sudden you encounter an event or a circumstance that redirects your life in a new path, in a new way, on a new trajectory. This happened to me a couple of years ago, and I embarked on a journey I had never planned to embark on, but at that moment I was compelled to embark on it. In 2010, my wife and I, with a small group from our church, traveled to Nicaragua. We were going to work with some orphanages in Managua City. It was going to be a week, and we're going to do some good, and we're going to come home. And that's kind of what was in my mind, and we're all ready for that. On a hot, sticky July afternoon in Nicaragua, one of the poorest countries in Central America, a local pastor took us to La Chirreca. La Chirreca is Managua City's largest garbage dump, and in 2010 was inhabited by 400 families. The pastor took us there to meet some of these families and some of the kids. I grew up in rural Africa. I've traveled the world. I've seen a lot of poverty. The poverty in La Chirreca was indeed horrific. It's hard to imagine, but acres of garbage was on fire. The stink and the stench would burn your nose and your eyes. The heat was oppressive. In and amongst all of that are people, children, looking for something to recycle, to sell, or food, surviving on less than $1 a day. Horrible. The pastor took us up a little hill so that we could see the sprawling garbage dump in front of us. And there proceeded to tell us that in some instances, because of the abject poverty these families lived in, they sold their children, boys and girls as young as 8, to human traffickers, who in turn sold them to the dump truck drivers for sex. As we were standing on that ridge, we could see the lineup of dump trucks entering La Shreka. I stood there and I saw and felt the carefully constructed walls around my life starting to crack and to crumble. I felt totally and utterly powerless to help these children who were being abused, these families that were being torn apart. This was my tipping point. This was where my life suddenly took a turn. I knew that I couldn't leave without doing something. I knew that I was compelled and driven to do something. I left Nicaragua with this feeling. The biggest problem was what? I didn't know what to do. I have 2 fundamental skills, things I've done for a long time and that I'm comfortable doing. One was climbing mountains. The second one was designing technical outerwear. With this somewhat limited toolbox, I wasn't totally sure how I was going to impact an attempt to help eradicate human trafficking. But nonetheless was determined to try something. I started to study as much as I could about human trafficking. I learned that it's the world's 2nd largest criminal enterprise, second only to drugs. It generates in excess of $32 billion a year. It sickened me to know that our children here in Baltimore are bought and sold every day. This is a crime that touches almost every city in almost every country on the entire planet. The more I learned, the more I started to talk to different organizations. And two things came out of those conversations. The first one was that it's incredibly expensive to provide aftercare for trafficked victims. We don't have enough beds. We don't have enough shelters. We don't have enough counselors, staff. The list is seemingly endless and incredibly expensive. It all needs to be funded. The second thing I heard was that it was only through education about human trafficking that this crime could ever be eradicated. People needed to know that it was happening so that the traffickers and the pimps would have a harder time to conduct their business. This was my calling. I figured I'm going to figure out how to raise money, and I'm going to figure out how to raise awareness. Still had no idea how to do that. But at least I felt I knew what I was going to do, which is, 20% of the battle. I realized what I really needed was a game changer. I needed to create something that would attract a lot of people and that we could monetize so we could raise a lot of money. And through a lot of hard work, a lot of sleepless nights, we came up with Mission 14. Mission 14 is a record-setting adventure set on the highest mountains in the world. Next spring, I, along with a small team of international climbers, will attempt to summit not 1, not 2, not even 3, but 6 of the world's highest mountains in a single year. Nobody has ever done this. This will truly be a new world record. The reason that Mission 14 came about was because of what I had learned. I was going to take this record-breaking, high media value adventure and turn it into a fundraising event. So with this in mind, we realized that Mission 14 has got two things going for it. Because of its nature as a unique event and a lot of cool stories that happen, we're going to travel to some of the most remote places in the world. We're going to use some of the coolest gear and technology the world has to offer. We're going to have lots of good, great, captivating stories to tell to an audience. Because of the global nature of the team, they all come from different countries, we're going to be able to talk to a global audience for this almost year-long expedition about a lot of different cool topics. The audience that I keep referring to that we're targeting, everybody from an armchair quarterback all the way to a thrill seeker. It'll also include several Baltimore City schools that'll be able to follow and engage with us live. All the while, the central theme of our messaging is not just about how cool the expedition is, but really, it's about changing the world. It's about educating people about human trafficking. That's why we're doing any of this. Our hope is to play a small role in raising an army of pioneers, raising an educated and motivated global community to fight human trafficking. So that was our plan on the social media raising awareness side. On the fundraising side, which I've learned is incredibly difficult, we had a couple of things going for us. We had a cool event, we had a lot of media value, and we had a large global diverse audience. These three things bolted together have captured the imagination of a number of global brands. They're paying for this adventure to take place. We designed this on purpose because when we ask our audience to support us, to buy our merchandise, to donate $5 online, whatever it is, we can honestly say that 100% of that goes straight to our partner organizations who need that money. Without creating the event, we would never be able to generate that income. The brands don't see us as a charitable event. The brands see us as a marketing asset. And that allows us to capture a different budget. Upon completing successfully this new world record, we'll be able to further monetize the event in that we'll be able to sell books, do speaking engagements, sell more merchandise, essentially generate a revenue stream that goes beyond the end of the expedition. So I want to conclude with a couple of thoughts. I started out by saying, sometimes it's not enough to be a pioneer. What inspires me, who inspires me, are those pioneers who have taken on the challenge of making our world a better place. People like Nelson Mandela. They transition from pioneers to difference makers. And in the end, it's the difference makers who ultimately drive social change. I'm going to be honest with you. I've never done this before. I've never tried to organize an expedition that's going to break a world record. I've never started a foundation. I'm no expert on human trafficking. But my heart broke, and I listened. I learned as much as I could. And now I'm trying to act on that. You know, they say a farmer who waits for the perfect weather never plants. I'm here to tell you today that there is no perfect time to start. But when you learn the truth about an injustice, a response is demanded. And that's when you become a difference maker. That's when you can start changing the world. We can all do something. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment. Finally, I want to say that I am not guaranteed success in my mission next year. Heck, I'm not even guaranteed to survive. Yet I am compelled to try. Thank you.